Good morning. Let me commend Liz Allen and Ken Abrams for putting this forum together along with Charles Potter. And I'm going to speak quickly because I have a lot to say in 2 minutes. But I have a unique opportunity of being involved in policing since 75 to 96, where I was also chief of police. I also had the unique opportunity to tell you that I was one of 3 people that enacted mandatory minimums. I was chief of police, Tom Sharp, City of Wilmington. So I come at it with this is a wonderful act to begin the discussion. What you have to understand, and I'm no longer believing mandatory sentences are any good, but let me tell you what will happen if you don't dig into this. You're putting a tremendous amount of pressure on the police department to stop the drug dealing, which is resulting in shooting. If they arrest somebody today and they're on the street tomorrow again, they're going to resort to serious incarceration. That's because in policing we have no other opportunities. And I think that this is a great bill, but there has to be some stuff that's specific to Delaware, specific to Wilmington. In Wilmington right now, you have a lot of young men, mostly black in the city, that don't have criminal records, and the drug lords are using them to hold a little nickel bag, then it gets increased, until they're finally end up doing shootings. And they're great people to use because they don't have criminal records, they're working under the radar screen. I often thought, what if we had a nice building somewhere where we could house these kids for a half a year with good people that try to teach them and brainwash them and bring them out, where they have no stigma, no arrest. And we've got to think of solutions that are unique to Delaware, because if you don't have alternatives to incarceration, many of the minority community are pushing the arrest. When we first enacted this, it was Lake Street in Middletown. It was saying they wanted these open air markets. They wanted it done. They wanted these young men to go to jail. We arrested 80 of them. The streets were clean, but it was their kids that went to jail. And I think they all thought that was probably not a good idea. When you talk about construction, Sam Guy, Reverend and I have been talking, there are very few minorities involved in the future of the state, which is construction, the trades. They're involved in ditch digging. But you go below that canal and see those 2,000 to 3,000 homes being built. There's no blacks. And I wonder if many of them aren't in prison, many of the people that we could be using. That's an issue that we definitely have to get into, because that's something you can't export. You can't get rid of home building. It's one of the few things left in this state. We need to realize that you need to approach this from, the numbers are terrible in 19802. It's going to approach 80%. That's worse than South Africa. That is worse. So you need to start from the perspective that that has failed. We're losing a young generation. We do need to turn these young minds into saying that the trades are a valuable way of making a future. If you don't have jobs, you can have all the re-entry programs in the whole world, they're going to fail. You can tell them how great they are, how wonderful it is that they're not incarcerated again. But at the end of the year, if they're not eating, and if they don't have a home, they're going to find a way. You have a unique opportunity with a new commissioner, whose name is Coop. He was a former state police officer. Now he sees both sides. He has the ability to bring the police who are going to be screaming for incarceration, because their success is dependent on how quickly they can stop this. They don't have alternatives. We have to find alternatives very quickly, because we don't have a lot of time. These numbers are very critical. What we're doing with mostly black males in this state. And it's got to stop, it's got to stop now. We don't have a lot of years to discuss this bill. So I love the opportunity to have it thrown up. I wish this room was packed with more people that could have input. But we've got to start now. I think everyone agrees that just piling these young people into prisons for 3 years, for 10 years, is not going to be the answer, and that's got to stop. But we have to get creative. There is no money for beds. There is after they're addicted, but many of these kids aren't addicted. They're very smart entrepreneurs that are being sucked into the system by the hundreds, and are being executed. And you're going to see a whole lot of resources in the city in the next few months going to stop it. and we're going to bring in numbers, we're going to be doing arrests, because that's our option. It's got to stop, but there is no solution right now, and we can make it. We've got the senator here, we've got the numbers on our side, which is the expense. They need more prisons right now. We've got a failed system that started with me in the 90s, and it's not worked. We housed a lot of people, ruined a lot of careers, and we still didn't end the mandatory, or we didn't end the serious crime that plagued our city. Most of it is driven, and after being a police chief for 8 years, it sounds a little bit liberal, it's jobs, jobs, jobs. There is nothing in the city, there is nothing in this area. When you lost GM, Chrysler, I have a phone book that I have in my office on every corner in the 60s and 70s. There was a business, electric hose and rubber. There is no way to get a job if you don't want to work at McDonald's. Drugs are a great opportunity to make $3,000 a month or a week. And if we don't start facing, what is happening, sitting where I am, the governor and people begin to realize we're going to lose the entire city of Wilmington and corporations. So now there's a tension on the problem. But the people that are paying for it are a lot of them are sitting in this room. So I say, I'm willing, Sam, Reverend Bullock, we're going to be putting some money in our budget, serious money for education programs, because the heroin problem is a lot worse than everybody in this room knows. Nobody wants to talk about it. Out there in the suburbs, it's a lot worse. We're losing kids every day. They don't wake up. And they're coming in the city to buy it, they're going back in the county and they're dying. And we're going to talk about it. The Reverend wants to fund some things. We're going to be everywhere talking about it. It's got to start here today. We got to say this is serious. It is destroying the fabric of our counties. It's destroying the future of our minority community. And now it's destroying the finances of the state. We're number 50 in the entire country in GDP. That's the number that tells how healthy you are. We're not healthy. The city's not healthy. And the county and the state is going to die. They have to change this equation, put the money, help out, get the good people. But it has to start now, because where we're sitting, Sam and I talk about it every day. There's nothing going to turn this around if we can't make this case. So I applaud everybody for doing this today. My staff will be very much involved in helping. Thank you.
You're going to develop resources to maybe staff with people who really have a passion to really fix this problem, other than people who are really looking status. Like myself, I would be willing to work with the school systems to really implement a program to really stop the drug problem early, because as we know, the drug problem is creating the crime.
Type of resources you see us needing to help implement this?
Certainly, the sponsors of the bills are the ones we should address that to, but certainly there's going to be a shift, I think, with Representative Johnson, Senator, from incarceration to these other programs. And schools certainly are a vital component.